Hello and welcome to Morning Java. I'm Matt Grubba alongside Lance Lysowski on this Tuesday morning. Lance, how you been after a long trip to Philadelphia? Not the pleasant one that the hockey guys
Only
got.
4 days, but it does seem a little bit longer when you're driving across the PA Turnpike. Tough week for them, Matt. 4 in a row, 6 of 7, dropped from first to third. It's not good, and there's so many things that have gone wrong. Everybody wants to talk about the offense. Yeah, the offense is a huge problem. They couldn't hit the Phillies pitching. The Phillies pitching was good. I was impressed, but can't really make any adjustments. Bad at-bats, swinging at pitches outside the zone early in counts. It just seemed like they were putting too much pressure on themselves, especially late in the series. And guys are just slumping. Josh Bell's slumping. Gregory Polanco's slumping. Corey Dickerson seems to be the only one who's kind of hitting well still.
Yeah, and how much of that can be chalked up to Josh Harrison? I mean, not having him at the top of the lineup, is that affecting the guys below him?
That's part of it, but the offense was also kind of struggling in those 3 games in Miami, aside from the Sunday game when Josh was in the lineup, and he really wasn't hitting all that well. He wasn't seeing as many pitches as they had hoped. So I think this is more of the teams that they're playing now, including the Phillies, have enough data on what the Pirates are doing at the plate over the first 10 or so games of the season, what pitches they're swinging at, what counts, how aggressive guys are being. It's pretty easy to collect some of this stuff, and they're taking advantage. The Pirates haven't found an answer for it quite yet, and they got to respond quickly because the Tigers have been playing well. They got them for 3 games at PNC, followed by the Cardinals, who are now atop the standings of the Brewers. So this could snowball if they don't kind of figure it out right now.
Right, and and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the week to come here at home for the Pirates. We're still talking about the Pirates recently struggling, and now they're back at home for 6 games. We've got 3 against the Tigers, 3 against the Cardinals coming up. You know, they started the season against the Tigers and had some good success up there. What do you expect coming in 3 games in the interleague play?
Yeah, and the Tigers have kind of figured things out too. Their offense is heating up the last week or so, complete opposite of the Pirates, and their pitching has been better. Miguel Cabrera is still hitting, so the Pirates they're going to have to kind of fight out of this slump. They had success offensively against the Tigers pitching. Jordan Zimmerman is on the mound tonight. And I think for the Pirates, it's going to have to start with Gregory Polanco. He's got to figure out this slump. He's batting second in the order. I don't know how much longer they can keep him there based on you're at the Mendoza line and striking out. Really, the on-base percentage is terrible. Hasn't been good for pretty much, well, aside from the first week of the season. You know, he had 15 RBIs leading the league. He's kind of a disaster. Josh Bell was in a huge slump before he tripled in pinch hitting in the 10th inning in Philadelphia. A lot of things have to go right. They were making mental mistakes, Matt, base running, fielding. They were a mess. I mean, they did not look like a first-place team, so they kind of earned their spot in the standings right now, and 2 very good teams coming in. Now, if the Tigers have weaknesses at the bottom of their lineup, but at the top of that order with Nick Castellanos, Cabrera, Victor Martinez, they can do damage, and I think the pitching is good enough that the Pirates struggle with the Marlins, so they could easily struggle with the Tigers.
Yeah, and last thing, I mean, you talk about the struggles in the lineup. What is the answer at the top of the lineup? You said you don't know how long Polanco will stay at number 2. Who goes to 2? Who's the leadoff guy going forward?
That's the thing. I think Clint Hurdle was kind of hesitant to move anybody else around because Marte was faring well at 3. Dickerson was doing well at 5. Cervelli, Mercer, Moran. But now, after a week of slumping, I think you might see him shuffle the lineup a little bit. Sean Arias is batting leadoff 2 of the 4 games against the Phillies. Maybe he's back there, especially tomorrow against a left-handed starter. So, hey, I think Marte maybe moves up to 2. Maybe Dickerson moves up. Dickerson's hitting so well. I don't know if you can keep him at 5, but you need line of protection for Bell. So it's a difficult decision. I don't envy Clint Hurdle right now when you have an offense that, again, is slumping. And the Pirates have had troubles in the past of getting guys to kind of break out of that slump. Andrew McCutchen was actually one of the exceptions. And there's a couple of guys right now that have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to fill out the lineup card when guys are hot than when they're not. But we'll be right back to talk about some more around the sports scene.
Matt, your, I guess, off season on the Pitt beat is way busier than anything I encountered.
Yeah, it's true.
The AD search was wrapped up pretty quick last year with Heather Like, but new men's basketball coach, new women's basketball coach. Right. And what's kind of interesting to me is the developments with men's basketball. Now, I thought that Marcus Carr, promising guard, I had a nice little season as a freshman, showed some promise. I thought he would stick around. You get a coach who's coming in, who is exciting, probably going to play a pretty good brand of basketball, but he's leaving.
Yeah, and
Why is this?
Well, that, why exactly is his own personal decision. He hasn't really said anything publicly to that end, other than that he is going to be leaving Pitt. He doesn't have a destination yet, although he has some Big Ten schools: Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State.
He'll land somewhere.
Among his potential targets, Marquette was also in the mix for him, where he would just be trading former Duke point guards from Jeff Capel to Steve Wojciechowski as his coach, so it makes sense of that.
It works.
But I'm sure Jeff Capel's a little disappointed that Carr's leaving, because he said at his introductory press conference he wants to prioritize the point guard position. So now the cupboard is pretty much bare there. I mean, if you just looked at the roster as it is, how do you answer? I mean, probably Jared Wilson-Frame has to pick up a little more ball handling duties, find some other people who can do that. That's why right now Jeff Capel is on the trail. He's offering some point guards that are still uncommitted, some guys that are, I'm sure he's looking at the graduate transfer market too, now that he has a better idea of how many scholarships he has for next year. There's still 2 players left that have not made their decision for Pitt, Malik Ellison being one. The St. John's transfer we've yet to see on the court. The thought around him seems to be that he'll stick around because he will have to sit out a year and lose a year of eligibility if he goes somewhere else now, because he just redshirted this year as the transfer. The other, Kenny Chukwuka, who's big man, played limited minutes, but those are the 2 scholarships that are still in flux as to whether Jeff Capel will have them to give out. And so, he's hitting the recruiting trail hard right now. Just did a New York swing. He's offering some top 100 type guys just to see, I think early on, what the interest is going to be in a program under him.
Well, I was in Philly. You were in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Riverhounds, playing some soccer. Was that Saturday?
Yes, that's Saturday night in front of a big crowd in Cincinnati, 24,505.
I had no idea that it was like a big soccer.
It apparently is, and it's a cool atmosphere at Nippert Stadium, which is University of Cincinnati, right in the middle of campus. So there's plenty of college bars around, and you could tell from the fans they had been patronizing the bars.
So. Makes for a good atmosphere. So 2-2 draw, 2-0-3.
Yes,
the Riverhounds are impressive. You have to, with as much kind of turnover they had to be in building a roster to build continuity that quickly. That's one thing that Dave Brandt never really had. He had to do a similar overhaul to get guys to play his system, but it never really gelled. And it seems like now they're actually scoring goals, and not only are they scoring goals, they're defending, which is something that they didn't have both when they had Dave Brandt.
Right, and certainly Dave was handicapped a little because he came in mid-season as opposed to coming in with a fresh slate like Bob Lilly did. But yeah, how sound they've been on the defensive end. I mean, 2-2 draw in Cincinnati were the first 2 goals they've given up all season, and it's just something, since 2004, they have not had a start to the season. They were playing at Moon High School way back then when they started the season this well.
Nice little soccer.
But yeah, it's just, it's day and night with what you see around the team, around the club, and going into some tough places, into Nashville, where they played at the NFL Stadium, into Cincinnati, getting a draw in both places. Now they come home for a game against Atlanta this weekend, and a win here would put them right near the top of the Eastern Conference. And, really, I think going into summertime when kids are out of school, that sort of thing, I mean, the Hounds are hoping to really, put a footprint on their brand with the new logo and everything this year, the new TV deal. I think this new beginning might be working for them.
And that's kind of important for them. Slow starts to the season can really affect attendance with the weather breaking and them playing a better brand of soccer, a more complete style of soccer where they're defending and they're scoring. I think it's important for them. And again, big match this weekend, plus another to go. It'll be interesting to see how things come together.
Yeah, and the schedule really picks up after this week too. They start getting those midweek games with the U.S. Open Cup, and I know the talk around the club here is they would love to make a cup run. They haven't made one in a few years. Get a matchup with an MLS team, maybe even here at Highmark, like they had DC United 3 years ago. I think they feel they have the potential for that kind of run, and we shall see coming in May whether they can put it together.